This is the BEITONG Kunpeng 20, and this is actually an alright controller. I had the Asura Pro 2 Plus recently, and it's a 2000Hz controller, wide and wireless polling rate. It's okay, but it does feel cheap, and it doesn't have the stick performance that I'm used to with TMR sticks, for example, on the Defender and my Tarantula Pros. Not here at the moment, but yeah. So TMR sticks are definitely the future. I just find them a lot more responsive, similar to how a mouse movement is. And the Defender or the PB Tails K-Silver TMR sticks are among the best that I've tried so far. So this is the third TMR controller that I will have had. There is another one coming soon from a manufacturer. I can't name them yet just because none of that info is public. But yeah, the TMR is slowly taking over. And this controller, the BEITONG, is £33 on AliExpress right now. It's not officially out until middle of November, I believe, or towards the end of November. But they are selling it on AliExpress. They linked me direct to the AliExpress page, so I can talk about it and show it and so on. So yeah, keep that in mind. But the TMR sticks on here, they don't have any circularity filtering. There's no processing either, so it's just all raw input and the movement's instantaneous. There is some minute dead zone on the inners, but you can disable that. There is a button combination you can hold to disable that, but even with it on, it's probably 2%, if even that. It's that small that even small minute movements register in a game where the game has 0 dead zone set in software. So I really like this. This is my number one go-to controller. The only reason it's not it's number 2. The only reason it's not number 1 is because the GameSir Tarantula has a lot more customization, so you can remap all of the buttons to keyboard buttons or mouse or Windows shortcuts and so on, and it saves it all on board. Whereas this is just a bare bones Xbox style controller, which is very comfortable, don't get me wrong, and the buttons are very good, the implementation and everything, but it has a few features missing that the Tarantula has that I really like. But the Tarantula sticks, the same TMR sticks, they do have a little bit of filtering on them. I can live with the slight filtering on the Tarantula Pro. I'm sure GameSir will firmware update that in due course, but for now, those are my 2 controllers of choice. So back onto the BEITONG. There's a number of things I do like. There's a few things I don't like, which I'll go into as well in a short moment. So the main one I need to get out of the way is a bit of the elephant in the room. Oh, by the way, I did do a written review on Reddit, which I will link to in the video description below. So it's quite in-depth. It has quite a lot of measurements and so on as well. But the main elephant in the room is the BEITONG software. So I have downloaded it here. So I'll just do an undo. I've got it in the recycle bit at the moment. But it's a 200 megabyte zip file, which unzips to just over 500 meg. And it is just an executable, it's like portable version of their software, similar to what EasySMX have for their software as well. But running the zip file through VirusTotal and Jotty, it does flag up Trojans. Now, I don't know if they're false positives or not, but one of the detections was through Google on VirusTotal as well. So there is something that I'm not confident with. Now, I have emailed BEITONG a number of times about it, and they seem to say it's, you don't have to worry about security, basically. I don't know. It's not that I don't trust BEITONG, it's just that I don't trust that data inside that zip file hasn't been compromised in some way. So I have not run BEITONG software, and you do need to run the BEITONG software, the Game Assistant software, in order to customize their controllers. So you can see you've got the LED RGB lighting there. You can customize all of this, but it can only be done by the software. There's no onboard controls to change the colors or brightness or what have you. You can only turn the grip lights on and off with a turbo button, quick press of that. There's remapping ability as well, but you can't do any of that on board. You have to do that via the software. But the remapping is only remapping existing buttons, so there's no keyboard mapping or anything like that, like you can on the GameSir Tarantula and the soon-to-be released Cyclone 2, which you can also get through AliExpress. It is a 1000Hz controller, but out of the box, it does not come set to 1000Hz. It is 500Hz. So all of the measurements I've done, I've repeated them. They all come back as 500Hz over wireless. So that's kind of annoying because you do need to run that software, and I don't want to run that software on my machines just in case As I say, it's not that I don't trust Beitong. I don't trust that that data hasn't been compromised in some way, and Beitong haven't responded in a way to validify that, to say, look, we've checked those zip files and it's all clean. I haven't had a confirmation of that. So until that happens, I'm not going to be running the software, and I don't think you guys should either. So just bear that in mind. Someone else might have tried it already, and by all means leave a comment in the comment section below to say it's all good. But until I've got some sort of assurance, it is going to be just a review of the controller as it comes out of the box, which is 500 Hertz and no other customizations. So the controller itself, now that all of that is out of the way, things I do like about it: mechanical mouse clicky switch ABXY, and these do sound very good and they do feel good as well. But because the caps of them are so lightweight, the actuation force is very, very delicate. So you can even accidentally activate them, and they do sound hollow or plasticky as well, which is not ideal. I've had other controllers before, like the GameSir Cyclone Pro, that has mechanical mouse click ABXY as well. They sound amazing, and it's nice heavyweight actuation needed, some forces needed to activate them. Whereas on here, it's not the case. So it does feel a bit cheap there, but the overall controller itself, the finish, the texturing, the subtle grip texturing, and the seams as well, everything is nicely done. It's nice, refined. It feels like a premium Xbox Elite style controller. The shoulder buttons, they are tactile clicky, and the same force applies to anywhere along the whole surface, which is good. So I like that. The TMR sticks, the silicone on the tops themselves, very grippy, very nice, much better than the Asura Pro 2, which I found quite slippery and not really as premium quality feeling. This is very nice. The base of the stick tops, they are translucent, and it's more translucent than other controllers. So I'm going to try and get a close-up of that on the camera. Don't know if that's obvious, but yeah, that's very nice. The clicks are all good. The accessory buttons, these are all membrane squishy, so nothing new there, nothing to write home about, to be honest. The triggers, they're fine, the activation for the analog triggers. Now, they do have a lockout mode, and compared to other controllers, I give credit where due. Beitong have done a good job with this, so it's just a quick flick and a quick flick down. So there is some articulation there. So as soon as you get past halfway, it flicks up by itself like a light switch. So that's very nice to see. It just means you can activate those with one finger really easily. Whereas on other controllers, for example on the Tarantula Pro, you do need to apply some force and sometimes even move the controller, flip it around and then activate it, just because it's so stiff. So that's nice to see. You don't have any back paddle button lockouts, so you just got to be careful to not accidentally activate them. But they are positioned in such a way that you will never, or at least with my fingers anyway, I never activate them accidentally. And you can press in on the base of the button to activate, as well as obviously press the side paddle itself. And they are just one button, there's not two buttons, it's just the same button there. So that's kind of cool. But when the triggers are locked out, it isn't a mouse click, so take a listen. So that's kind of annoying. I kind of hoped that this would be a mouse click mechanical switch, but it isn't. And there is a bit of travel as well, so post-click travel. That's the end. Don't know if that's obvious there. So that's the end there, and there is additional, I'd say 3-4 millimeters worth of travel after the hair trigger is pressed in. And I'll do the other one as well. They don't feel amazing, to be honest with you. The shoulders feel way better. I don't know why they weren't tactile like their shoulders are. So that's obviously a decision they've made. There isn't any obvious texturing for the grips on the triggers or the shoulder buttons, even though when you look up close you can see there is some texturing there, but you can't feel it. It's so faint that it may as well not be there. So the grip, whatever they've got, the surface finishing, it doesn't make a difference, to be honest with you. USB-C port is not recessed too deeply, so any cable will fit in there, so that's good. The cable that does come with it is decent. It's not amazing, it's not like braided or anything like that, but it does the job. It's fairly lightweight as well, so that's fine. The other thing I don't like is when you do turn off the grip LEDs, I find this LED a bit distracting. You can't change the brightness without the software again, so there's no way to change that, and it's a bit big as well, so even if I did leave it on, when I'm playing, especially in the dim lighting or darkness, it does feel a bit too distracting because it's just in your face quite a lot. Kind of wish that could auto dim or just tweak it on board itself. There is a manual for this. The manual is not online at the moment. I have been sent a digital copy in English because the manual that comes in the box is all Chinese. So there are no customization controls dictated in the manual that says you can change the LEDs and so on with button combos. So that's kind of annoying. The TMR sticks, these are not K-Silver. These are made by a company called BEITONG. BEITONG do say, I'll bring up their page here. So they do say they have a patented anti-wear ring. So that's on the inside. So whereas you can't see a pronounced anti-friction ring on the outside here, there's just some glossy accenting. It doesn't really look like an anti-friction ring itself. On the inside of the stick, around the sensor, there is a red anti-friction ring. I don't know if that's visible there. Yeah, so just where I'm showing there, that is the anti-friction ring on the inside below the dome of the stick caps. So that's kind of interesting. It protects from dust and additional external wear as well. So it's very smooth. So there is, whatever they've done there, it's obviously working on the inside, on the underside of the dome itself. So that's kind of cool. I have not done a teardown of this. I'll probably do that shortly, and I'll add to the end of this review video just to show that if I am successful with the teardown. The D-pad itself is interesting. Initially, on visual appearance alone, I don't like D-pads like this. So I prefer, let's just minimize that. I prefer D-pads which are more like this. And I especially like the one on the Tarantula Pro because it's slightly oversized and it's a mechanical, clicky, tactile feedback, so that's really nice, whereas this is obviously membrane on the Defender, but it's still decent, but it's just not the size that I prefer. I prefer slightly bigger than this and slightly less curved. So the Tarantula Pro fits the bill for the D-pad side of things, but it is mechanical clicky. And take a listen, and you can activate the diagonals very easily as well, but I'd have found that there is wobble, so it's not fenced off between each direction. So if I press left and I wiggle up and down, you can actuate up and down as well. So that's kind of annoying. I don't like that too much, but I have played a few games with it and it seems fine. It's not like accidental or anything like that. So it is usable. It just doesn't feel very good. And the top itself, this cover, this D-pad cover, is very cheap feeling. It feels a lot cheaper than the actual controller texturing and finish itself. I wish the D-pad was the same finish as the main controller, because this feels refined and premium, whereas this and these ABXY button caps, they do not. So that's kind of annoying. I guess that's probably where some of the cost cuttings have come in, because this controller is £33. You can pull off the D-pad cap, whoops, and you can replace it with something else by the looks of it. So that's kind of interesting. I haven't seen anything on BEITONG's website, or there's nothing included in the box to swap to replace that with. So it looks like you can, or will be able to, swap this out, the D-pad cap, with something else. Okay, so the battery is not stuck down like you normally find in other controllers. It is just loose in there. So that's interesting. It means replacing the battery is fairly easy. So we're going to take the rest out and see what that looks like. That's the button, or the switch. So if I lock it, a plastic barrier goes in place of the trigger, so it stops it from going any further. So it looks like it's not even membrane, it is just using the existing Hall effect magnet, which is just there to activate. So it's a pseudo style hair trigger. So there is no mechanical button there that's being pressed. And you can see there that it is just being blocked by that wedge. So if I lock it again, or unlock it, sorry, and now we get the full range. Back on lock. So yeah, it's just making use or reuse of the Hall effect magnets. you can't actually take the ABXY buttons out unless you take off this plate here. Now there is a membrane spring, it feels like a membrane spring underneath that, so it keeps the ABXY buttons in place, and that's where the actuation is happening. So this probably explains why the buttons feel so lightweight. And on the PCB itself, and now we've got another membrane there where the mechanical micro switches are. And here we have the KL mouse clicky mechanical switches for the ABXY. And here are the BEITONG TMR sticks. And this is the anti-wear ring that I was on about. So if I just use this one as an example, so what it does is it rubs along the bottom side of the under of the joystick cap, which is an interesting way of doing it. And it does appear, or it does feel like it has some lubrication or grease on it. It's very smooth as well. So that's very impressive, actually. I really like that design that they've done. So engineering wise, this is a very nicely implemented controller. I just don't like the way the triggers have been configured. It's a bit of a half-half job. And I also don't like the cheapness of the ABXY caps. And that's about it, really. Everything else seems to be very well done. So yeah, once again, thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe. And if you feel up to it, leave a comment in the description below. Anything else you'd like me to test on this controller, apart from the software, unless you're going to tell me that you've used the software and the software is good. But yeah, as I said, unless I've got some assurance, I'm not going to be running game assistant software. And here are the shoulder buttons as well, so they are tactile micro switches. And all of the other buttons, the same tactile. Let's just peel this back a bit. So here you can see under the D-pad, so that's what the switches are. And under the accessory buttons, they are just membrane, so just standard fare there. I'm going to put this back together now and hope it all works. So I have noticed a bug, well, it's not a bug, it's a quirk in the way the triggers have been engineered. In order to have hair trigger, you obviously got the trigger lock there, which I've already discussed earlier. Now, in normal mode, in analog mode, so here's how the Hall effect triggers work. So you can see there I'm pressing it and it's actuating as you'd expect. So it goes all the way up to 100 or 1, and you can modulate that as you would any other Hall effect or analog trigger, really. So that's all fine. The issue comes about when I activate the hair trigger, so that's the physical lockout there. Now, because it's still using the Hall effect magnets, what happens is this. So keep an eye on the value there. So that's hair trigger activated. You can see it's only gone 0.07, 0.1. It goes up a bit more. And after a few presses, the controller recognizes that hair trigger is activated, and then it goes to 1. So now it's gone to 1. See? So it takes a few tries once hair trigger is activated for it to then register that. So if I now drop back to analog mode or standard mode, check out what happens now to the same trigger. So once again, keep an eye on those numbers. So I'm just going to press it slowly, and you can see even a tiny amount goes straight to 1. And it's going, once again, it's going to take a few actuations to then register that, hang on, we're back to analog or normal trigger mode now. So that could be a big issue in some games, because you're not going to get the whole 1 100% actuation in trigger mode until you've pressed it a few times, so it might not register that trigger action in hair trigger mode in certain games. Other games I know that even at 20% actuation it registers as a full actuation, but not all games do that. So yeah, that's a big oversight really. So yeah, keep that in mind, because this is going to be a selling factor really, depending on the games you play. This is the Kunpeng Kunpeng. Okay, so I've got the Gaepong. Take 4.